Good night, everyone. John. God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma J, Spirit Divine. I'm here to give you a word on tonight. And we're going to talk about crossing the sea, crossing the Red Sea. Exodus chapter 14, verse 1 through 31. This when Israel got released from Pharaoh. He had them enslaved for 400 years. So this will show that God's power was over the Egyptians. Israelite was terrified, but God fought their battle. All Pharaoh men was under the Red Sea. Now they saw all God power. And sometimes we all like that. We see the work that God can do in our life. We saw that God will work this situation, work that situation out. But some kind of way when things happen to us over and over, we panic. We get terrified. And that's what's going to happen with them. Now, Pharaoh had let the Israelite go. Now, Pharaoh would think the Israelite are wandering around because, see, God had them to go another way. God ain't make them go the short way. He had them to go another way because God knew he was going to harden his heart for Pharaoh to go after the Israelite. But God again glory. Now Pharaoh would think the Israelite is wandering around the land in confusion, and by the desert. Now God wants Pharaoh to follow the Israelite to the Red Sea. See, God want him to follow the Israelite to the Red Sea. And so and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, but I will gain, and God will gain glory. You will gain glory for myself and through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptian will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelite did it, because see they complain at first, why we gotta go this way? And good thing God took them the long way, because they would have went the short way. Soon as they came after, they would have went back, because that's what they said. They wanted to go back. And so God wanted them to go the way where the Red Sea at. Now God will show Pharaoh and in Israelite there is a God. And see, God got to keep on showing the Israelites this stiff neck people. Now he to show glory and power while Moses try to rescue them. But some kind of way they mumble and they're gonna be complaining so much. So God got to show power to Pharaoh men and in the Israelite. So when the king of Egypt was told that the people had flee, and I see his men telling them they flee. Now he let the people go. But you know how it is when other people get in your ear. And the officer had changed their mind, changed their mind and changed their mind, and they said, what have we had done? Now some people tell you yes, and then when they go about doing, seeing the people doing it, then they be like, well, what I did? I say yes to something, and that's when he said the Israelite is gone, and he had lost his services, so then he wondering, because see, they were slaves, so so the men telling him, okay, so you lost your services, now who gonna do stuff for you? The slaves gone. And so the king of Egypt had reversed his previous decision about letting the Israelite go. Now, once he received the news that he had actually let them go. So now it's sinking in that he let the Israelite go. And so the Lord had hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and the king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites who were marching out boldly. Because see, when they came out, it was 2 million of them. And they marched out, making loud noise and marched out boldly. So God wanted Pharaoh to go after them and so he can show his power. Now, as Pharaoh approached the Israelite, they looked up. They looked up and there was Egyptians marching after them, and they was terrified, and cried out to the Lord. Now imagine you enslaved, where people brutalize you and everything else, and you've been enslaved for them under 400 years, and then you escape from them. You've been rescued from them. But then you look up, and you see them same horrible people coming after you. Anybody be terrified. And so the Israelite freedom headed to the promised land. They were going to the promised land. Now imagine you escape from slavery and you look up, and the same people who oppress you is right behind you. So this said to Moses, was it because there was no grave? Now they start being negative. Because the first time Moses went there, they're talking about, we told you to leave us alone. And so they wanted to go back. And that, if God would have went the short way, they would have marched right on back to slavery. And in Egypt that was brought us to the desert to die. They think Moses brought them to the. They think Moses escaped them, rescued them from slavery, and then took it to the Red Sea to die. Now, what have you done to us by bringing us out here? So they see the Red Sea. Because they see the Red Sea. They figure that's the day end. And then they look up, they see the same people oppress them for 400 years. So they like their back is against the wall. And so they had to learn from repeated experience, God, that God was able to provide for them. Because God had provided for them up and down. And so they had to learn from repeated experience that God was able to provide for them. The Israelites had thought they was doomed. They was at the end of the road. All they saw was the Red Sea. Even after watching God powerful hand deliver them from Egypt, they still was complaining, and they didn't know how God gonna provide, or whoever was gonna provide for them. So Moses had answered them, because they just complained. They're talking out their heads, saying all kind of stuff. So Moses got the comfort. Now Moses had answered the people, do not be afraid. Stand firm. And you will see the deliverance. The Lord will bring you today. The Egyptian that you see today, you will not, never see them again. And so Moses know what God can do. Now God told him, they ain't going to see the Egyptian no more. So tell them to calm down, because God going to fight for us. If God said you ain't going to see the Egyptian no more, you ain't going to see them no more. So Moses encouraged them, don't be afraid. God will take care of it. Now Moses had said, watch the victory. Watch the victory the Lord will accomplish. Now Moses said, watch the victory that God will give, that God will show you today. The Lord will fight for you, and you need only to be still. Moses said, watch the wonderful way God will rescue them. Moses had a positive attitude. And that's what I'm learning to have, trying to have. I have to learn, in situations to be humble and calm myself down, have a positive attitude. And you can't run off the handle and take things so personal so fast. So I'm in a healing process myself. So Moses said, just watch. Watch the wonderful way how God is going to rescue you. Watch. Watch how God do it. And so Moses raised his staff. He cried out to God, and God said, that staff you have in your hand, raise that staff up. And stretch out your hand over the sea and divide the water so that the Israelite can go on dry ground. So and see Moses, He used his power, but he uses some more power. Now God designed not only to deliver the Israelite, but to destroy the Egyptian and show his glory. So it's all God can save you, but it's all about God's glory. He gonna get his glory out your situation. He gonna get your glory out of your stone. So Moses had stretched out his hand over the sea, and all the night the Lord drove, to the sea, back with a strong east wind, and turned it into dry land. The water was divided. Now he put it in dry land just for the Israelites to walk across it. So the Israelite was at a day end, but God had let them through dry ground, and so God threw it into confusion. He threw them into confusion. He threw the Egyptians into confusion. Now God jammed up the wheels and stuff, the carriers, and so they had difficult driving. And the Egyptians had said, let's get away from here. God is fighting for these people. Let's get away, because God confused them. God so tampered with their will. They had difficult driving. They realized that God was fighting for them. They realized God was fighting. They were trying to get